All right. So this is going to be a revised video or update from a previous video. I had diagnosed the car and I was incorrect. And I like explain why. This is that Kia Sportage, the 2.7. Kia Sportage 2.7. This was the one a few days, some time ago, a few videos ago, where I had diagnosed with the valve in the back because it had a misfire on 135. Well, luckily, I got lucky. You know, I did give an assessment like, well, this is a valve issue. Now, I wasn't 100% wrong, nor was I 100% right. But one thing that was missing from a diagnostic aspect, from the vehicle's perspective, was it was incapable of determining the timing, if the timing was adequate or not. Now, in all fairness, there was a case study in Identifix with those misfires 135, and I was like, well, timing, well, how can it be timing? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense for it to be that when, you know, the overall banks are not affected. But in this case, 135 was creating misfires because it was a tooth off in the back. I'm going to show you that. And what's funny is I had a car that had a slight misfire down low. If you get some timings that are like half a tooth off, it'll run fine up top, depending on if it's advanced or retarded. But what will happen, it will, depending on if it's retarded or not, it will misfire down low. This was a tooth off and it misfired down low, but ran perfectly fine. The car gave me a p0340 cam position circuit on bank 1, which helped me out because we have misfires and we got cam position codes. And I was like, you know what, let me manually check the timing. Did so. And here we are. The rear bank is a tooth off. To add, I do got some screenshots in my scan tool. I swear I do. But what was one thing that was also happening, all the trims on the rear bank, front bank were -16. So they were out of whack also. So it was taking away 16% of fuel. So we had fuel removal because it was rich on overall banks, but it didn't trigger a code for it. But we had cam position sensor code, misfires on 135, all because of one tooth off. And luckily the customer came by today and I wound up seeing that code. I did put this timing belt on and a water pump. They look new. I swear I did a video on this, but I did 3 in the past few years. About 2-3 years, I did like 1 every year. I put this on there about 2 years ago, and it was fine. You know, I don't know how it jumped timing, but it did. Maybe because the belt was tight and it didn't recognize the slack as being any issue, but years later it did. And I swear I checked the timing, you know, when I put it on, triple check before I put everything back together. So there was a test in the scan tool when a timing belt test. Now, I want to also add, I have another Hyundai here with the same exact engine, and I was able to do the same timing belt test in the computer system, and that was 98. I think it was like a rising edge of 98, falling edge of 38 or something like that. They were exactly within spec. This car was 3 out of spec, so it was 10. It was supposed to be 98, but it was 101, and 38 was 41. So it was 3 off. But it was fine because the computer even said it will have a variance of like 3, but anything more than that is going to be a problem. So I trusted that. I shouldn't have trusted that, but I'm gonna show you. What it's like afterwards. So I just want to show you that the timing, what that looks like. Bank 2 is fine. I put my mark there for a reference. You can see how that dot on the front of the gear lines up with that mark there. This one's off. See that? The white mark is where it currently is. The dot on the left is where it's supposed to be. So yeah, the timing's off. The crank, perfectly fine. That's perfect. Got a little indentation and a dot up there. That's fine. So again, just the tooth off. I don't know how it happened. We make mistakes. 2 years later, here I am going back over my mistake. So I wish it would have showed me that early on, but it didn't. But either way, it's going to get fixed now, and we're going to, review the data and confirm that it's actually fixed. And again, I have another Hyundai. Well, I have a Hyundai here, and this is a Kia, so they're the same. I was able to do the same test for the time belt test that was within spec, what the recommendations were, and not outside that realm of that, like this one was. Even though the car ran fine, wasn't satisfied. And it ran great on the highway, but it was just showing those misfires. And I'm gonna put that reference of that video so you'll be able to see it. So another thing, when I did the leak down test, I'm like, okay, the valves are just bad. I was wrong. Okay, so what was happening, if that timing is off one and I got the pistons at top dead center to close it off, well, that valve is going to be partially open, or just by a smidge, and that's enough to create loss of air. So yeah, that explains why that valve was leaking when I did a leak down test, despite the crank being at top dead center. But I did close those valves though, in all honesty. So we made mistakes. Let me get this fixed, get this time belt off, get it warranted, and I'm going to show you the finished product, and we'll go through those same tests and just have to reference the other video to see what I did where I was incorrect, so you can do a compare and contrast. So I got the timing put back, and I keep questioning the back. I know I got it lined up properly. It's just hard to really see the back like you can the front. So I took a socket, which is like a straight edge, line it up, and it's right there with the hole. This is not perfectly flush. May not look like it, but it is. Looks right. So I'm not gonna question it. I know the top's good, that's questionable. The bottom's good, I know that's good. So the only thing I replaced was the belt, and you got a brand new tensioner on it. I think I'm good. So those are lined up. One thing I could do, I could just start it up like it is and then look at the data and see what it says. And if it's fine, then just continue putting everything back together. I think I might just do that. But the problem is the car has to be a certain temperature to do the timing belt test. So if I have to warm it up, I might as well put everything back. So I'm gonna chance it, put everything back together, see what the timing belt test states, and if it's off, then oh well, I guess I'm gonna have to pull it back down and do it again. So give me a minute. Why did it start up and shut down? There's nothing special pulling this time belt off. Let me cycle the key. I don't know why that legitimately threw me for a loop. I guess because it maybe adjusted to the timing or something, and now it's straight. All right, I'm gonna let it warm up, and then we'll check the pit information. So I'm gonna get logged in here. While I'm doing that, I just want to show you that this vehicle has 213,000 miles on it. So let's see what comes up. I didn't clear the codes yet, so whatever's in the history I'll be able to show you. And again, it had the misfires on 135 and the p0340 cam position on bank 1. Alright, there's our codes: p0300, p01, p0301 through p0305, so 1 through 5. And then we got this one right here is what really helped me confirm that we probably got a timing problem. So let's see about the special function. This does have a crank cam, a crank relearn, if I recall properly. Does it not? Oh, no, I think I just did a reset and adaptive values. I'm gonna have to do those too. Let's do the time belt test. I swear I thought it had a crank cam relearn. So this is what I'm talking about. The CKP crank position when CMP is located fallen edge, and then the crank position when cam position is located rising edge. So these were the values I was referring to, and it states that it needs to be, it's okay to deviation of 1 to 3 teeth. Okay, so, and that's what it was, 3 teeth. So this was 41 and this one was 101. So let's see if they're dead on, because the other Hyundai with the same engine, oh no, it hurt. Let me go to live data and see if the misfire is still there. So I might just be a tooth off. So 1 and 5, 3 is not misfiring. Let me shut it down and start it back up, see what happens. Yeah, it's like I wonder if 1 is going to continue to populate. Ugh, don't look good for me. Let's do this. Let me clear the code. So I'm letting the car run for a little bit because I got thrown for a loop and kind of had to shut down and do some thinking. The misfires seem to have been resolved. It's been idling for about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, and I haven't seen a misfire yet. But that surge is what really bothers me when we initially accelerate. And even though we don't have a code for it, I do remember replacing this one component, the throttle position sensor. And I'm just gradually pushing the accelerator pedal and it'll spike up to about 15. Me holding the accelerator pedal steady and the erratic values in the graph really leads me to believe that I need to replace this throttle position sensor again. Like, I'm holding it steady right now, and you'll see it jump up to about 10 to 14. Like, I barely got it depressed, and it's not steady at all. Yeah, see, look at it. Yeah, I had the sweet spot. It'll just dance all around. Yep, there's that surge. I think I need to change the throttle position sensor too. That's what I'm gonna do next, even though I don't have a code for it. It's just not stable. Let me see if there's any misfires. No misfires were generated. Let me go and control it with my hand and then look at the value. Alright, let's see what happens. Yep. Yeah, see that spike? See that? Yeah, there's another spike. Yeah, I'm gonna have to change that throttle position sensor again in the back. And I just changed it a while ago. Oh man. Let me make another part store trip. I want to show you one more thing. I don't think it's supposed to do that if I move this. If I move this, I don't think it's supposed to do that. Look at the graph. If I wiggle it. All I'm doing is pulling it back a little bit. Yeah, let me get this throttle position sensor off and just replace it again. Luckily I got this off already once, and I tell you, the first time getting off it was a pure pain. I wonder if I got the Master Pro brand, house brand throttle position sensor, because this one definitely prematurely failed. Pulling off the idle air control valve. That's that. And now, throttle position sensor. I just need to get I think I can still use the same Phillips. Yep. Man, I think I had to cut slits in there the first time. Please stop falling. This is it. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. So with the throttle position sensor out, go to move it and just incrementally move it to see if there's any change in the value. And this is the merge these two. The value is steady. Look how it's slowly ascending. And then there's the absolute throttle position, steady. I don't know what happened when it was in there versus when it's out. And it seemed like it's working just fine now. Yeah. The only thing I can do is put it back in there, because that was me doing that ripple. Guess the only thing I can do is put it back in there. Make sure I got it in there properly. Let's put it back in there. We'll reinstall it and see what happens. Maybe I screwed this up too. I don't know. Let's see how it responds. That's a lot better. It's way better. All right, let me bolt the idle air control valve back up and we'll retest everything. I got the codes cleared. Let's see what happens when I start it up. Cross your fingers. Oh. Let's see how this responds. Where's the throttle position? Did I pass it? What's the absolute throttle position? There you go. So let's see how these respond. If they're steady. So I'm giving it a little bit of throttle. And it's holding now. It's not jumping like it was before. I'm gonna let off a little bit. It's a lot better. Let's check the misfires. It doesn't have that surge anymore. So the misfires are gone. Or they're not present right now. Let me just... Yeah, that surge is gone. I think that was just the idle. But when I accelerate now, it doesn't have that blip of hesitation as if it's that initial enrichment isn't there. It's definitely there now. Feels a lot better. So, the biggest test is how it's going to respond in the morning time, because that's when usually the biggest problems would manifest. So I'm gonna get everything installed, the motor mount and the splash shield, tire, and that'll give it a second to cool down. I can do a startup and see how it responds and take it on a test drive. All right, just got back off of about a 5-mile test drive. Let me show you what I'm dealing with now. There's no codes present, and most importantly, there's no misfires. I haven't shut down the engine yet, except for just that one little blip on number 6. 135 is fixed, so no more misfires. Car accelerates amazingly, like brand new. And I just hate that I was just incorrect on when I initially assess this car, but luckily, you know, the p0340 came up, and that helped a lot with some sort of guidance, and that case study that was on Identifix a while ago that I remember reading. So let me put this car in the garage. All right, sorry about that. Yeah, it's raining like crazy out there. So yeah, unfortunately I was wrong, and I don't know. Only thing I know how to correct myself is just make a video of the correction from my errors. So literally saw the problem. Timing was physically off because of the p0340 code, so that helped. As far as the surging, that was resolved because of throttle position sensor. And I questioned a lot of stuff that I was dealing with in the past with this particular issue, but I just didn't investigate any further. I guess I got a little overwhelmed, and I was like, it could be, but no. But once I started really looking into those values, because I'm like, okay, I literally fixed this timing. I know the timing was off, got that fixed. I could focus on what initially causes those surges when you accelerate. And just from past experience, it's like, okay, the throttle position sensors would provide information to that computer of fuel delivery during the initial acceleration. And, you know, saw the erratic values, went right to the sensor, could move the sensor connector, the value would then continue to be erratic. Strangely, pulled it out, you can move it around and it worked fine. I think one of the pins, the center pin, which is probably the signal, was probably off a little bit. I'm going to blame myself for that also. So the car drove great for the last 2 years with the timing belt, and suddenly this happens. I don't know how it got a tooth off. I don't know. It was fine, and the throttle position sensor was around at the same time. You know, they were all fine, and here we are. So I'll take the blame for it. You know, and just because I replaced it don't necessarily mean it's good, it's new. You know, y'all know I've had bad new parts. Main thing is, again, it's fixed. I can get this car back knowing that I learned something new, customers taken care of, and you know, he's in a normal situation. I didn't have to have him pay maybe a couple $1,000 due to cylinder heads on here or anything, because I initially thought that the valves were bad, and I really feel guilty about that because, you know, I'm supposed to know. I'm not supposed to be incorrect about these things, and I was actually wrong about it. So hindsight, you know, I definitely could have done more, but I did trust the computer in what it stated with the time belt test. But it's a Chinese made tool. This is not factory. But in all fairness, it wasn't really any, I don't want to say service information, because there was that one case study where I read on Identifix where the guy had the same problem and his timing was a tooth off, and that's what fixed his issue, and that's what fixed my issue. So I'm not going to say there wasn't any service information, but there was any factory, but there were case studies on it that I discovered, and I should have delved into that, but I didn't. Here we are, but it's fixed. I'm not going to break my neck over it. But I'm going to tag that video in the description of where I initially was making my, I don't want to say conjectures, because I did do a pressure test, but the timing was off, as I explained earlier. But you'll see all that stuff, and if you decide to look at the previous video. But if anything happened with this car and it has to come back for any reasons, see, look, there's no misfires that has developed, 135, so we're still good. But if anything happened, I'll definitely update. Hit the link, subscribe to the channel, stay informed, how to reassurance my work, and I'll see you on the next one.